synchronize because I was getting a little antsy at 5:18.
You were getting worried.
5:19. I'm thinking, will Dan Patrick remember? Will he blow me off? Will he give me the blessing, as we used to say in the Christmas Vacation? Remember when the blessing? The blessing. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time ever on Dan Patrick Radio, Sirius XM 211, the man himself, who finally, and I'm glad I got you on today, Dan, because I just want to get that last Tampa Bay shirt before you have to shut it down.
Before the cease and desist comes through?
We already took it down. Tom Brady's lawyers reached out, and very polite, with a cease and desist. So we had a pre-cease and desist sale, and we stopped selling the last Tampa Bay T-shirt right after the show today.
I can't believe you actually went that long before they stopped you.
Well, they said, the 27th of this month, and then I told my guys, I said, let's not take this up to midnight, the 26th. How about we just do it at the end of the show on Friday? Let Tom have his trademark. The guy needs something positive in his life, and I'm happy that Tom could get, maybe sell some T-shirts that say Tampa Bay on it. I really am. I'm happy for it.
Is that why he called Howard Stern instead of you, because you were ripping him off and selling T-shirts?
I don't know that, but a source close to a source that I know said no, that's not the case.
Oh, okay. Because as an investigative journalist from way back when, those are the kinds of angles I look at, Dan. As you well know, going back to our days, I wasn't a tag team partner, but I was part of that group of whatever we called ourselves back then in the early 90s.
I don't know what we were. It was a mess is what we were, because for some reason I came in on Saturday night for 6 hours to do radio at ESPN and didn't get paid for it. But I did have fun because you were there, and we had Overman was there, Chuck was there, so it was a lot of fun. But for some reason, I don't know why, I kept going in every Saturday and not getting paid.
There was a magnet in that studio because, back then, ESPN TV was the only entity. There was no ESPN2, no ESPN News, so radio was the first entity. And a lot of the SportsCenter guys, Berman, you name it, Tommy Jackson, Dick Vitale, they would get off the set doing highlights. And, you can't really expound or give any of your long opinions for more than 30 seconds. And so everybody wanted to come in there and do radio. And we had free food. We were catered. So that was the other draw.
Wow.
I would get done with SportsCenter sometime, and I would try to sneak by ESPN Radio so I didn't have to go in and do it. But you had producers. You have these guys in the Diamond District in New York, and they're always looking to see if somebody is going into a store to buy diamonds, and then they'll go and approach you and say, come on over and go into our store. That's what you had at ESPN Radio. You had guys out front looking for people to bring into the club there, and it felt like I got sucked in there. I'd get done at 12 o'clock, and then they'd bring me in so I could do an hour of radio after I'd done SportsCenter.
And it was the best hour in radio history because everybody was exhausted.
Yeah.
We'd do 6 hours going into the seventh hour, the midnight hour. We would look for things on TV. We would look for pornographic videos and things. Of course, they weren't on the air there though. We would watch Telemundo, looking for dancing.
Tom, remember, we weren't even allowed to take phone calls.
I know.
ESPN and our boss John Walsh, we'd be on the air for 6 hours. And you couldn't take any phone calls.
Well, 7 hours, Dan. We were on from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m.
Well, I didn't. I had it in my deal. I got to leave at midnight. I couldn't stay
later. That's right. I remember.
But it was torture. That all was is just we would sit there and talk to one another, and you go, I don't even know if anybody's listening. And maybe nobody was listening, but we started out as weekend radio at ESPN. Oh God!
And all these years later, you're still going strong.
Yeah,
and you stay the same age. Although I remember when we moved to L.A. and we were both working for DirecTV, actually Content Factory, and then DirecTV, and I would fill in, and they would fly me from L.A. all the way to your studios in Connecticut to fill in for you back in those days, man.
I know.
It was a lot of fun, man. And then the guys, how long have you? Because you've been with your guys, and they've been loyal, and they've been with you from day one. The Danettes, and I ran into you in Miami. Of course. We had to go in. It was like everybody in media on the Sunday night of Super Bowl week before it started. Where did they go? Joe's Stonecrap. And there's Dan and all the Danettes. And then there's Clay Travis and his people. and then I come walking in, and everything stopped when I walk in. But I guess you can understand it.
Well, they stop because they go, oh, my God, he's still alive.
Oh, wow. Does that make me a brunette?
Yes, you're a brunette. Yes.
Okay.
Well, you do have. Well, you're a little gray in there.
Yeah,
though,
it's
Harry.
a little
Yes,
gray now. Yeah.
Dan Patrick joining us. So, obviously, the show's gone great. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. I remember back when you used to think I was good at radio. Back in the day.
When you had your game going, you were as good as anybody. You could do it and do it well, and you had this ability to get riled up about something. And I, some do it and they fake it when they're riled up. Like you would get into it, and I could tell that you were really into it. And I always appreciated that. You always had enthusiasm. You weren't afraid. And there's a lot of qualities, a lot of traits with people in this business who are successful, and you certainly have those. And that's why when they reached out and said, "Hey, Tony, can we put him on the channel on Sirius XM?" And I said, "Absolutely." I always appreciated your personality and your love for doing good radio, and so I'm happy for you and happy to have you part of the lineup.
So is this the official blessing now? Do we have incense or holy water or essential oils that you can anoint me with?
We don't want to do the essential oils again. You tricked me that one time after I got off SportsCenter, and you said, "Hey, I got some essential oils." And we went over to the Radisson, and I went, "Wait a minute here. This has nothing to do with any I thought of."
Yeah, but we always had the bathtub full of beer, though.
I know we did. We were so sad because here we are, and I was doing pretty well with Oberman on SportsCenter, but if people really saw sort of how we managed our lives back then, how we were treated, a big night was we got through with SportsCenter, got through with radio. We'd go over to your room at the Radisson and have an entire bathtub full of beer. And we would sit around and talk as if we hadn't done that for 6 or 7 hours prior to.
But that was like being in quarantine. That was quarantine before quarantine was cool, Dan.
Yeah, it's like 5 or 6 dudes sitting around talking, drinking beer. And I thought, and I loved it at the time. And then I realized, there are actually other things to do that might be more interesting than that. But hey, at the time, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Dan Patrick, you can hear him every day. You can see him every day on YouTube. You can hear him on Fox Sports Radio. Is there anything you're not on right now, other than alcohol, unless you started drinking on a Friday afternoon?
No, I'm going to wait. I wait till 7 o'clock. That's my rule. 7 o'clock, then I have a beverage. And have some tequila tonight. Get ready for the second and third round of the draft. Now, is that a standard, or is that self-quarantined hours, or is that a regular routine regardless of what the state of the country is? Oh, this is pre-quarantine. This will be post-quarantine, but it is. I just sit down in my basement, and I'm fine. I have my own quarantine where my wife and kids. They don't come down to the basement, so it works out well. Now, you're doing your show. You're still in the studio, though, up there in Connecticut, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's about, 3 miles from my house, but I cut my staff in half to come into the studio. Everybody else works from home. 3 of the Danettes work from home, and I just wanted to cut down on the number of people in there. So we have 5 people total. Paulie comes in, and we're separated by, the glass there, and it's good. I just go to work and I go right home. I don't do any shopping. I don't go anywhere. I've tried to cut down on any kind of socializing that I can. Yeah, I mean, we were lucky. I mean, the Super Bowl happened, and then Robin and I were in New York in early February. After the Super Bowl, we went to New York actually in mid-February. And that's when everybody started talking about the virus. And here we are walking in Midtown Manhattan, and everybody's out in the streets, and we're going to the Chinese restaurants, and nobody's thinking that. So I may already have had it and have gotten over it and not even know it. Do you ever think that, Dan? Like when you're morning, you wake up and you say, "Yeah, I feel a little warm today." We're not hypochondriac. Like I'm sure Keith, our good friend Keith Olbermann, has thought many times that he had the coronavirus. My wife asks me every day, how do you feel? Because I went through, some health issues, and my immune system was totally compromised a year ago. And, I'm talking to my doctor, and my doctor said, you can't get this. I go, oh, so I'm immune from it? She goes, no, you can't get this. And I went, oh, and she goes, yes, it could be fatal for you. And I go, okay. So, my wife says, what did the doctor say? And I said, well, he said, I can't get this. And she goes, how is it you can't get it, but all of us can? I go, no, I can't get this. And she goes, or? And I go, ... She goes, okay, then we'll make sure you don't get this. My son is in Singapore. He leaves after the Super Bowl, goes to Singapore. He's over there, and so we don't, all of a sudden everything, just all hell breaks loose. There's quarantines, shutting things down. You can't fly out. And so we don't know what's going on. So now all of a sudden I go, you take inventory, and I got 4 kids. So I got one in Ohio, one in L.A., one in Vermont, one in Singapore. And I'm going, how do I get everybody home and safe? But then they can't come home because I can't be around them. And I went to Vermont with the dog and quarantined up there for 9 days and came back and basically just, you roll the dice and say, I hope everybody's safe. And so far, so good. My son comes back from Singapore tomorrow morning, and then we can't even hug him. We're going to leave a car at the airport at Newark. He gets off the plane with his fiance. They're going to take the car up to Vermont. All we can do is wave to him. It's just crazy trying to figure this stuff out. That's way too much information that I just gave you.
No. I mean, a lot of people can relate to that, Dan, because we have friends. Our buddy Joe Kraus here, he had his daughter, and he had to go she had to come back, and then he did the same thing. She had to fly back from college, and then they had to get a car to pick her up. And then
she came back from Europe.
But I mean, but she was she went down to Cape May, New Jersey, right?
He left the car in D.C. for her, stocked with some food, and then she went to their second house out in Cape May to quarantine.
A lot of people are doing it. I mean, especially when my kids are grown. I mean, I'm a granddad, and I haven't been able to see my new grandson who was born in January because he's down in Maryland, and so we can do FaceTime now. I don't do the Zoom thing though.
House party, you do that?
I saw House Party though. Oh, House Bunny. That's what Dan was in. He was in the House Bunny.
I was in House Bunny. By the way, Anna Faris was wonderful. I didn't really know her, and she obviously had no idea who I was. And so I was the police officer in there, and my scene has to do with a sexual act, or she thinks I'm asking for a sexual act, and Sandler thought it was really funny, to put me in a compromising position. But I just remember I said to Sandler, I said, this Anna Faris, she's really funny, really talented. And all of a sudden, Anna Faris becomes, this big star. And I go back to, oh, my God, my scene with her is embarrassing. But she was a champ. She was great.
What did your family say when they saw that scene, Dan?
Oh, boy. Well, I tell them it's acting. I always say it's just acting. Sandler gives me a scene, and I do the scene. That's what great actors do. I get immersed in my role. And then I did a scene in Blended with Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler, and Sandler thinks it's funny because I got a girlfriend, or I'm married, and it's the woman from the Goldbergs, Wendy Kobe McClendon or something like that. Sandler goes, Danny, why don't you kiss her during the scene? Now, it's not in the script. I don't even know. I'm just meeting her on the set. We're going through rehearsal. My daughter is working on the movie set and is walking by when Sandler says, hey, Danny, why don't you kiss her? So we do the scene, and at the very end of the scene, I'm kissing a woman I don't even know. And then we get done with the scene, and my daughter goes, are you going to tell Mom? And I go, I said, yes, honey, it's in the scene. Because I know, but you're kissing another woman. I go, I know, but it's acting. She goes, okay, you tell that to Mom. And I went, okay. So, yeah, I've had a couple of those moments with Sandler where, it's a little bit awkward, but making out with somebody on camera, it's a great to do it. And, consider myself pretty fortunate.
This is the price you have to pay.
Yes.
Are you now? Because I heard you with Adam last week, and obviously you
Yeah.
guys are real tight. Are you contractually obligated to be in every Adam Sandler film ever recorded or ever made?
Yes.
No, I just check. People ask me that all the time.
Well, he always writes a role. I don't ask for it. He'll just say, Danny, got a role for you. And I go, all right, send me the script. And I just shot one on the Cape this last summer where I play a school principal. And you go in for one day, you spend about 12 or 14 hours shooting it, and then I'm done. I did the movie with Jennifer Aniston and Nicole Kidman when we went to Hawaii, where I play the nightclub owner, and that was a week where we were out there. But usually they're just one-off, 1 or 2 days at the most. But Sandler always he'll just say, "Danny, got a good role for you. Got a good role for you." So as long as he keeps going, I think I've been in 17 of his movies. So
Wow.
now here's the question, though. When I die at the Academy Awards, do I get up there in memory of? Do I make it on the big screen when they look back on all the actors and actresses who have passed away that past year?
The only way that would happen, I think, Dan, is that if Adam Sandler actually won an Academy Award, which many people thought he got screwed out of one.
This Uncut Gems, he might get one.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
No, he didn't. They stiffed him. He didn't get an Academy Award. They already
Well,
had
he
him.
didn't get nominated.
Exactly.
He
That's
didn't?
the outrage.
Oh,
No,
that's outrageous.
Then you
I
missed
know.
the Academy, the Ricky Gervais Academy Awards, where he ripped everybody, and Adam Sandler was not even nominated for Uncut Gems, which many people think is his greatest
Well, he
movie
deserved
ever.
to be nominated.
Next to, of course, the golf movie.
Well, yeah.
Happy Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore, the greatest. And by the way, the greatest scene ever. Is it not? Is it not Bob Barker?
Yeah. Yeah. But
The price is
Barker-
wrong, bitch. I mean, has there ever been a better line uttered by anyone in cinematic history?
But Bob Barker, Sandler told me, Barker was not going to lose. He couldn't lose in that scene. He wouldn't allow it to be written where he lost that fight with Sandler. And he was really competitive. And Sandler said surprisingly athletic, but he wanted to make sure that he won because he would not lose a fight to Sandler, to Happy Gilmore.
And it was the greatest. It's an unbelievable
Classic.
scene. Unbelievable scene.
I know.
So now, so you're going to chill for the weekend, stay inside, right? Now, because we had a lot of social distancing and stay-at-home orders defied in round one of the NFL draft. I mean, there were a lot of house parties going on there, and I'm surprised no one was sent in to arrest those people.
Well, I thought that Tonga Bailoas, it seemed like they were multiplying. When I was watching, they were like, there was more than 6, and it looked like there were about 9 or 10 people. The Mike Vrabel situation, I have no idea what that was.
We're all still trying to figure it out.
But I thought it was a scene out of Breaking Bad, or it could have been if Tarantino had produced that. You had somebody on the toilet in the background.
Now, did you wait? Because I said the same. Everybody says the same thing. I can't imagine. I think it's just a guy with shorts on, sitting on his phone in an adjoining room.
And in a reflection.
How could you have somebody sitting on a toilet in a room full of children, where he's taking a dump, so to speak?
Tony, don't ruin it.
Okay.
Don't ruin it.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a
Yeah.
story.
And by the way, is there any doubt Cliff Kingsbury's Scottsdale Diggs stole the show?
I wish he was still dating Holly Saunders because that was right out of Billions.
Mm-hmm.
He's a baller.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If I would have said, hey, what does this guy do for a living? If you just saw that picture, you'd probably go, drugs. He looked like he was some drug czar
Exactly.
with a house like that. I mean, that was right out of Blow. I mean, it was,
All that was missing was the glass table with the dusting.
And
with
Johnny Depp doing lines.
Johnny Depp
Yeah.
doing lines
Yeah.
right there on his knees.
oh my God, that's quite a. And then you had Belichick looking like a 6th grade teacher grading papers on his table, and he's just there by himself. It was good. It was entertaining. I applaud ESPN and the NFL for pulling that off.
I agree. I thought I thought Trey Wingo did a great job. I mean, that was hard to pull off. But there is one picture that somebody posted that was faked, and that was the Arizona Cardinal pick.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see the picture that somebody put on there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you do that, Dan? Because I didn't even know who that guy was. And it's surprising that I don't know that guy because I know a lot of people in the industry. But that wasn't really there last night, right?
I don't think so.
But you saw it, though. It's amazing how everybody is seeing the doctored picture of Roger Goodell with the Arizona Cardinals 12. And how come they couldn't find 12 people for the Los Angeles Chargers to fill up the 12 boxes on the screen?
Attendance is down for Charger games, Tony. You know that.
They should have just put some Steeler fans in there,
Yeah.
like when the Steelers played out there.
The picture of Ben Roethlisberger when he had the big beard. Remember that one recently? Where he looked like a Cro-Magnon man? He looked like he was in what's the scene in the movie where that's one of the memes where he always looks and smiles? The actor that got the beard. What's the one? It's a popular meme where he like nods his head, and I can't think of the movie now. That's what happens when you get old, man.
That would have been a great payoff, son.
I know. It wasn't really a joke. It was just trying to think of the people.
Really, really well done.
Thank you.
Well
Thank you.
researched.
Thank
Maybe
you.
Miss Robin could help you out with
I
that.
don't know. Well, Harry's not helping me at all.
I'm not helping.
Harry's ready
No,
to
I know
drink.
that. When you said you wanted to do this show, you said basically I'm doing it solo, and I go, what do you mean? He goes, and Tony goes, well, I can't count on my partner. And
No, that's not true. Harry's one of my greatest partners.
I know you said great friends, but kind of tough as a co-anchor.
Oh, wow.
Dan Patrick, ladies and gentlemen.
I had beers with Dan one time.
That's right. He said he has a Dan Patrick. Do you remember being in a swimming pool?
No, he doesn't remember.
With Harry Mays in 1991. Where were you, Harry?
We were at the Cable Ace Awards at the Lowe's Anatole Hotel in Dallas. And I met you in the pool, and I recognized who you were.
Was it love at first sight?
It was.
Did you kiss?
It was. And I was stalking him, and we drank a couple of beers, and we talked about the, sports and the big show. And I told him he was so much better than Olbermann. And then we arranged to go out that night after the awards ceremony, and he blew me off.
No.
Yep.
Well, you mean you didn't want to spend more time with some stalker dude he met in a pool at the Cable Ace Awards?
It was so uncomfortable where a guy comes up and he's in his bathing suit and he gets close to you and he starts talking so I would back up and I'd hit the edge of the pool and I'd go, oh my God, I'm in trouble.
Right, he couldn't go anywhere. I cornered him.
And then you zeroed in and then I thought, golly, this is going to be bad. And you were very nice, but I didn't blow you off. I don't think I won the award that night, therefore I wasn't in a cheery mood.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what it was.
That's what it was.
You're like Aaron Rodgers after the Green Bay Packers drafted a quarterback last night in the first round.
You're like Jordan Love.
Right.
You just here you come. I didn't ask for you, and you won't leave, and I'm upset about it. That's probably a good analogy.
But I had board shorts on. I didn't have a banana hammock. It was board shorts.
Okay.
So, I know.
That was the 90s.
Yeah, I know.
That was big in the 90s.
I got it. Yeah,
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Patrick giving us the blessing. Dan, it's an honor to be on the Dan Patrick channel on Sirius XM 211. I got hired when there was no sports. So what does that tell you about my career? I get a job. Everybody's losing their jobs, and I get a job exactly at the point where there's zero sports to talk about.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't know if you've ever really truly been about sports. You're about entertainment, and there's a big difference in that. That you can find entertainment in a lot of different things, not just sports.
Is that good?
That's a compliment, I think.
Yes.
No. Yes.
I couldn't get a job at ESPN if I didn't know sports. You had to go into a room with John Walsh and tell you who the third line was of the Vancouver Canucks before they would hire you.
That is not true, because the entertaining part of that is you telling the story that you were asked to tell the third line for the Vancouver Canucks. You weren't asked to break down.
Yes, I was, and I actually knew who the third line was for the Vancouver Canucks back in the 90s.
Was Pavel Bure still there?
Yes, he was. Young in his career. Come on, man. You're going to question my hockey knowledge?
No, I'm not. I'm not. We got off to a bad start, I think. We did. No, I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about 25 years ago we got off to a bad start. Not today. We're good.
Oh, we're good.
This is a normal conversation for you and me.
Well, Dan, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate it, and great to be on. Me, you, Dan, and Rich Eisen. The old gang is back together again, sort of.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy that you found some peace there and everything's good. And I hope this lasts a long time, as long as you want it to go, Tom.
Well, thank you, Dan. Appreciate it, man. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. I'd say we're all in this together, but that's a bunch of crap.